of us. I'm proud to say we have over 20 years of experience within the market, and Virtuozzo specifically. And we're really excited at this new release. There's been some considerable work and new features that will be coming out in Virtuozzo 7, and we're very excited to be sharing this with the audience today. Before we get started, I wanted to just talk real quick about questions and Q&A. We encourage you to post up questions through the question module on the webinar, which is located at the bottom right of the screen. Feel free to submit your questions at any time, and what we'll do is we'll pause periodically throughout the presentation and answer those questions in turn. With a mind on time, we know that we have an hour here, so we want to make sure that we get through all of the new features and functionalities within that time. If we do happen to extend over, we'll extend over with questions, and of course we'll be recording this entire presentation, so you'll have an opportunity to view it at a later date as well. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? And Stephen, if you could move us over to slide 3 there. Okay, fantastic. So, you know, a lot of the folks that are on this call are probably familiar with us, have some sort of exposure to us either in the past or are currently using our products. So we don't want to take a lot of time on the history but for those of folks that are new to the platform, you know, we started selling hosting service providers to the hosting service provider market back in 2001, where we were providing container and VM-based services, and have been doing that to the market ever since and for the market ever since. We currently have over 700 partners, which have a combined total of 5 million VMs across the entire market, and we're at currently 170 employees overall in various offices throughout the world. Yeah, you'll see the list of only a small list of the clients that we have that represent us today. There are many, many more, as you can see, by our 700 partners that we've built there. But we're very proud of the fact that we help build the market and played a role within these organizations as they, you know, work into the various parts of cloud and hosting market to offer services. So on this next slide here, we just want to talk real quick about our influence within the open source area. So the folks that may not know of us on the call, they probably are familiar with Docker or Kubernetes or a lot of the things that are taking place within the container space in the market. Some of the areas of influence with either Kiru or phal, like those two technologies, used in concert with one another, are one of the areas where Docker uses to do live migrations, or it enables the live migration components of that technology. And we're very proud of kind of our lineage within the open source market, and we're happy to say that we're on and we maintain board seats at a lot of the top organizations. Folks like the Open Container Initiative and Open Cloud are all organizations that we've been affiliated with and we continue to contribute to. We also have and continue to build strong technology alliances. So the spinning out of Virtuozzo from our Parallels parent enables us to go out and connect up with folks like cPanel and Gelastic and have a lot more flexibility in who we work with from a management perspective, and we're pleased about that, as well as maintaining our traditional relationships with Odin and Plesk and those things. So it has allowed us to broaden our technology alliances, and we'll continue to broaden those as we develop more and more solutions for the market. So just a final slide for us to go over before I hand the reign over to Stephen is, you know, a lot of times customers will come to us and they'll ask, you know, why Virtuozzo? And I think, you know, in a nutshell, right, there's 3 main points. It's integrated, so you'll see here in these upcoming slides where you can now have containers, KVM, and storage on a single platform supported by a single vendor, which is, a very efficient way to deploy services and solutions on your infrastructure. We're proven from the standpoint that we're production ready. We have extensive amounts of workloads that are out in production today, and we've proven ourselves in the areas of availability and cost effectiveness. And we've all done that with an eye towards flexibility and making sure that we're working with both open source solutions and commercial solutions, as well as other partner components to enable our partners to provide the top tier next gen solutions they'll need to remain competitive in the marketplace. We've gotten a lot of press lately in the news. I think one of the areas I think we're excited about is that we were ranked #2 in provider of agility infrastructure, or agile infrastructure rather, by Gartner. It's something that we're very excited about. If you don't subscribe to Gartner's reports, we'd be happy to talk through in more detail on what that report meant and how we fared against the market there. So with that, why don't I turn over the mic to Stephen, and he'll walk you through the many fine and new features of Virtuozzo 7.
Great, thanks, Dan. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time today just going over at a fairly high level what exactly Virtuozzo 7 is, and then spend a little bit more time kind of talking about some use cases and ways that we see Virtuozzo 7 enabling partners in the market to be able to compete and bring some either enhanced or new service offerings into play. So just to make sure we'll do some quick level setting, I wanted to talk a little bit about Virtuozzo in general, and particularly about Virtuozzo 7. So we're really one of the first hyper-converged solutions for service providers, really bringing Virtuozzo containers, hypervisor, storage, all together on the same platform and utilizing the same hardware, and supporting all of that with production level support. So with Virtuozzo 7, some things are changed and enhanced, and some things are completely new. So the system containers we continue to develop and improve upon, but one of the biggest changes for us with Virtuozzo 7 was the change to an optimized KVM as our hypervisor. In prior versions of the platform, we had our own proprietary hypervisor. And we'll talk a little bit more detail later about some of those optimizations, as well as the reasons for choosing the KVM. Another area for us where we put a lot of improvements in Virtuozzo 7 is around storage. And we continue to improve the performance of storage and allow you to do more interesting use cases with it as well. And just wanted to highlight here that compared to a similar open source solution, we are about 10 times better than Ceph on similar workloads. And a key differentiator for us over some of these open source solutions and some of the other solutions that are in the market is all of these together, all three components are supported on the same hardware, and we support them 24/7 with production level support, meaning that we make sure they work together, that they play well, and that if you have a problem, you've got someone you can contact, and we can get you through and figure out what you need to do to get that solved. So wanted to talk a little bit about some of the highlights in Virtuozzo 7. So certainly, looking at the a new Linux kernel, we've updated. We're now supporting a 3.1 kernel, which is great. That helps with performance, and it helps with some of the supportability, making sure that we're on a newer version, but also making sure that we're on a very stable and reliable version of the kernel. As I said earlier, we've moved to a KVM-based virtual machines with really good support for Windows guests. and we'll go into a little bit more detail on that later. But but certainly a use case that we see continually being utilized. We've also made some improvements, to memory management. There's quite a lot that we've actually done to improve that, and near the end of the presentation, I'll talk about how that can actually even enable some kind of new use cases. The application image catalog, we'll talk about our partnership with Bitnami and some of the things that we've done in order to enable those applications. Obviously, disk I/O and network packet limits are a key feature that we've improved in Virtuozzo 7, making sure that, again, resource isolation and everything that we can to get the best performance out of the workloads that you're running on top of our solution. We've improved PS cache technology for containers. We've completed the transition to Creo for live migration. We've also improved high availability, especially when you combine the platform with storage. We've moved to ReadyKernel, and we'll talk. Yep.
I think the screen's not showing up.
Oh. Okay.
There we go. Now we're back.
All right. All right. So for ReadyKernel, I just realized that when I did that, it actually stopped recording. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go back over here. All right. So for ReadyKernel, we've actually added in some new feature which allows you to patch your kernel without having to reboot the server. We'll talk again about a little bit more later. We also have integrated backup. We're also adding a feature for disk encryption. We've also added support for the libvirt API, which again is part of our move towards kind of an open standard in supporting the functionality to be able to integrate into our solution. And we also have support for OpenStack. Switching over to some of the key features for storage. So obviously, historically, our solution was actually built and is optimized for both virtual machines and container images. It supports data replication, as well as read-write cache onto SSDs. One of the newer things that we've added is our S3 object storage, and we'll talk about the offers you can build around that. We support hot data balancing, making sure that the data which is accessed most often is on the lowest latency drives. We also support Virtuozzo storage for Docker, which allows you to have a persistent storage solution in a clustered environment for your production-ready workloads in Docker. We are also adding erasure coding with RAID 6, which really improves a lot of options for you when it comes to how you're going to make that information redundant. We're also looking at adding a couple of new features in the very near future around geo-replication, being able to have data centers in multiple locations, as well as being able to put servers into maintenance mode, which will make it easier when you do have to do either maintenance on the physical hardware or if you need to do major updates to the node. And then talking a little bit about the management and integration. So one of the things that we're going to be releasing is Virtual Automator, which is support in Virtuozzo 7. So that will allow you to use it in a similar tool that we've used in historically with earlier versions of Virtuozzo in order to have a interface to manage that environment. But on top of that, there are several partner solutions that exist today where they have built solutions to be able to manage Virtuozzo environments. There is a very robust command line interface as well as our SDK, so you can actually integrate into your own systems. As I said earlier, we've added support in Virtuozzo 7 for the libvirt API as well. So there's if you're looking for a standardized method in order to integrate in multiple virtualization layers, that is now an option for you with Virtuozzo. We also have Virtual Machine Manager. And there's on our help page, you can actually find more details about that, as well as we have a preview version of OpenStack integration. So the idea being is there are multiple ways that you can interface with Virtuozzo 7 in order to be able to manage and look at your environment. So that's just a little bit of some talk about what's going on, but what I really want to spend most of the time today talking about are the actual offers you can build on top of Virtuozzo 7. So the first place is there are a number of what I would call traditional places where we've seen web hosters and service providers offering services using Virtuozzo. And one of the main areas is that we helped actually to pioneer is the virtual private server. And then there's, on top of that, obviously, other types of web hosting and cloud servers. So really, these are system containers. They're fully functional. They're very stateful. They very much often a Linux-based environment. Given the lightweight container that we have with a very, very small footprint, allows for a high degree of density and also allows for the isolation of the resources as well as the users. And there's very low latency. So it really provides a very robust and cost-effective way to deploy these type of workloads into the cloud. And we've been doing that for a long time, and we continue to be focused on improving that and making sure that we're providing the best tools to be able to do that. So from a density point of view and a performance point of view, really when you look at CentOS KVM and you look at Virtuozzo 7 containers, we dramatically outperform, which really leads to two, whether you're looking at from a commodity point of view, being able to get the most workloads onto a physical server, or whether you're looking to deliver high performance workloads and in a lower density. In both cases, running on containers really provide an optimal solution for you to be able to put those traditional container-based workloads on Virtuozzo. Another area that is definitely interesting is virtual machines, and particularly when it comes to Windows hosting. So Windows servers don't work in a container environment, but the virtual machine environment allows you to be able to offer a Windows-based virtualization on the same physical hardware that you're offering Linux-based containers. We support a very wide variety of operating systems in our virtual machines, and we've moved to a KVM-based solution. And really, our hypervisor provides even better density than traditional KVM and better performance than traditional KVM. So we've done a lot to optimize that at the kernel level, as well as making sure that we're supporting as many features as we can. So really what the benefit for the customers is you get Linux and Windows infrastructure from a single provider, and you can run any supported operating system or applications that are inside VMs. So just from a performance point of view, just sharing some numbers, about 33 better performance between the Virtuozzo KVM compared to CentOS KVM. So it is, one of the things that we've definitely done is from a driver point of view and from a functionality point of view is make sure that Windows guest runs as close to bare metal performance as you can for a VM, and that's something that we're really focused on, is making sure that we're supporting those high density use cases. Another area of a kind of in the more traditional sense, it kind of is moving in towards virtual data centers as opposed to selling just unique services on a VPS or one virtual machine, is moving more towards a virtual data center approach. There's particularly high demand amongst SMBs and enterprise for this, wanting to be able to run complex software, wanting to be able to run taking their data center that they're running, maybe it's whether it's a small business server or the applications that they're running, and moving those into the cloud as opposed to sitting in a server room. But they aren't ready necessarily to move into a public cloud. But they do want some of those public cloud features. It gives you the ability where not only are you selling the compute, but you're also new services such as load balancing, VPN, network, things like that, and really combines the benefits of the virtual data center with high density containers. Gives you a huge ability to be able to offer services in this type of environment, where you can really get a lot of profitability out of your physical hardware. As far as the benefits to the customer, this really provides public cloud infrastructure with private cloud benefits. So there's, as they are looking to move from being in a very private physical location to wanting to be in the cloud, having some of the redundancy, some of the offload of resources to a cloud infrastructure, but still wanting to have a lot more control of things, and being able to get that in a supported environment from a trusted service provider. It also allows them to manage their resources and network services. So as opposed to having to purchase hardware in advance, they're able to actually grow out their environment as they go. So today this can be deployed using integration with OpenStack or through software like Odin Service Automation's APS package for OpenStack, both of which work really well with Virtuozzo to be able to provide this type of environment. So another area that we see some opportunity is around application hosting. So when it comes to application hosting, one of the places that we've partnered with is an organization called Bitnami, and they provide a great solution in a number of templates, which are very straightforward to deploy and provide you a very robust catalog that's also secure and updated. So, it reduces your cost because you don't need to compose and maintain multiple application images. There's also, it lowers your security risk because all of those applications are coming from a trusted vendor. So as opposed to just having open source applications that are unmonitored, they're coming through a trusted source that has been validating them. It also can increase your usage of infrastructure as a service offerings because a lot of the time, if they're installing those applications themselves, they may run into problems with not having the right resources on a plan, not having the correct OS version, or where through the application catalog, it ensures that the application that they're deploying is straightforward and has the correct configuration. And you can also attract new business by offering verticals and making sure that you have the relevant applications to support those. And we'll also can work with you on a powered by Virtuozzo and Bitnami marketing campaigns. From a customer point of view, the real benefits is that they can actually have these applications launched in a single click. There are about 130 pre-configured applications within the Bitnami catalog, so there's a broad range of choice. And because they're implemented using best practices and OS templates, there's no need to configure the operating system, deploy and set up the application. They basically select it and run the application. These are included in the easy/VM template catalog, so there's no real additional setup on your side. You just need to add the applications or the templates into your menu selection. So it's very easy to get started with the Bitnami catalog. So another area, I want to move kind of into storage now that we've talked about mostly about compute, but moving into storage. Object storage is an interesting area to be able to leverage if you've deployed Virtuozzo storage. Another way to sell unused storage on that network is to move to an object storage model. And from a benefit to service provider, really this gives you a new offer where you can actually sell storage for files, backup as underlying storage for things like Open Exchange, Dropbox-like services, or backup services like Acronis. From a customer point of view, it really gives them the benefit because the object storage has Amazon S3 compatible APIs. So that means that if they're writing an application or have a protocol that they use internally that they're designed to write to Amazon, they can switch and use your storage in order to be able to have that in a private cloud as opposed to a public cloud. And it is also a great solution for Open Exchange and for cloud backup. So it provides them an environment in which they can do that. And one of the options to deploy this would be through an APS package like Odin Service Automation. But you can also within your own provisioning system, you can take advantage of this. And another area that certainly there's a lot of buzz going on around is Docker. So Docker obviously are application containers, and there's a lot of people who are developing in Docker. There's a lot of internal use case for Docker. What we're kind of the emerging opportunity is as partners are looking to move into production, there are some problems that they need to solve that are different with Docker. For example, Amazon may be great for development where you only need an instance for a short period of time, but when you start running those long-term broad applications on Amazon, they can get very expensive very quickly. So there are certainly organizations that are looking to have a hosted solution, but they're looking to have that hosted in a more cost-effective way than Amazon, because they don't need necessarily the short-term solution. They're looking at a billing model where it's more static. But they were looking to have a really also solve the problems around security and isolation, around persistent storage. So to look at the ability from a service provider you really need to compete with other VM-based Docker offerings. And you can do that using an offering built on Virtuozzo because you can provide better density as well as integrated storage. So the benefit from a customer point of view is containers, system containers offer the most cost-effective way to run Docker. And the reason for that is when you run Docker, actually installed on physical hardware on bare metal, it provides you a very stateless, a very efficient way to be able to run and get great performance. And so we can get a lot of Docker applications, a lot of Docker containers, running very well on limited physical hardware. But in order to do that, you often have to run in privileged mode, which means you give up a lot of security and you give up a lot of resource isolation, and which is fine from a development point of view. But when you start getting into production operation, you really need to get a lot more security isolation. You need to get a lot more, you have issues around persistent storage, and particularly you start wanting to run that as opposed to on a single physical machine. You want to run it on a cluster. And so from that point of view, the way that a lot of times it is suggested to solve part of those problems is to run your Docker application inside a virtual machine, which is great because it solves a lot of the security issues. It solves a lot of the problems around isolation. But the challenge is that you end up paying the virtualization tax. And the virtual machine ends up meaning you lose a great deal of the performance. You lose a lot of the fast, flexible deployment. And so the solution to this problem is to use system containers. And the system containers from Virtuozzo 7 allow you to run near bare metal performance with the security isolation and with the resource isolation that you would get from a virtualized environment. So we do have native Docker support as part of Virtuozzo 7. In addition to that, we also, through our plugin that we have for Docker, you actually can utilize our storage solution underneath Docker, providing you persistent storage across your cluster. As the individual application containers get spun up and spun down, and the actual data can reconnect regardless of which physical node they are on. So, Docker in containers or in virtual machines is a really great way to get Docker into your service offerings. So, and then Virtuozzo Linux really is a version of CentOS. It's a distribution of Linux which has production level support. So why is this a benefit to the service provider is that it gives you the ability to resell Virtuozzo Linux licenses so that you can actually add to your margin. It reduces your customers' support costs because the operational support is provided by Virtuozzo. And it's fully compatible with CentOS applications. So the benefit to the customer is that Virtuozzo Linux servers have 24/7 support from Virtuozzo, and built into that is our ReadyKernel subscription is already included, meaning you can apply security patches and updates without the need to reboot your server. And again, it's a very straightforward way to use it because it's simply another Linux template. So I'm just going to pause here for 1 second just to see if there's any questions. I'm just going to check the. All right, it seems that there doesn't seem to be anyone who's asked any questions. Remind you, you can, if you add questions into the chat window, we can see them and try and answer them on the call. So if you do have any, feel free to go ahead and add them there.
I think we just got one.
There we go. You know what? That's actually a great question. So the question is talking about upgrading from Virtuozzo 6 to Virtuozzo 7. So absolutely, there are a couple of different ways of upgrading. There is support today for being able to upgrade through deploying a new Virtuozzo 7 cluster, and then migrating the workloads from a Virtuozzo 6 cluster into Virtuozzo 7. There is also something we're looking at releasing, which is the ability to have an inline upgrade, having a mixed storage cluster, for example. So really what the best case here is, there are advantages and disadvantages to the different methods. So what we would usually recommend is to get engaged with Virtuozzo. Talk to your sales rep or your sales engineer, and we'll go through and help you look at your environment and look at your use case in your business and figure out exactly what the best way to go through an upgrade is. And certainly having upgrade planning is something that we are more than happy to engage with you and talk about on a one-on-one basis. As far as supporting Virtuozzo 7 through some of the third-party solutions, so a lot of the third-party solutions that use our PVA connector, and that when we release support for Virtual Automator in Virtuozzo 7, most of those should work with Virtuozzo 7. So that's something that's coming out fairly shortly, should be out in the next 30 to 60 days. And then at that point, yes, Virtuozzo, the upgrade scenario to Virtuozzo 7 in those cases, there are some unique things that need to be taken into account, but yeah, in general, they should be supported in third-party solutions. All right, let's we're going to go back into the presentation. We'll take a pause a little bit later for some more questions. So really what I want to talk about now are some other areas where there's maybe some new opportunities around some of the features that are in Virtuozzo 7 in particular. So first one I want to talk about is ReadyKernel. So ReadyKernel is really, it's about updating without rebooting. So you're able to update the physical nodes without rebooting them, which it really gives you the benefit of being able to meet your SLAs and also at the same time maintain security patches. Particularly, a lot of times security patches come out out of maintenance window, and it's important that those are provided quickly and accurately, and that's something that we're definitely going to be focused on doing through ReadyKernel. And then you also have the ability to then resell ReadyKernel subscriptions. So ReadyKernel will be included in Virtuozzo 7, but you can also sell those subscriptions for non-Virtuozzo nodes as well. From a customer benefit, they get those security patches for the servers automatically, and they're implemented without reboot. And it also means that they get the kernel actually updated without rebooting as well. So it's already included in the Virtuozzo license. So the templates are pre-installed with ReadyKernel with the automatic subscription. So it's actually very straightforward. There's very little you need to do. And it also, there will be support for any Red Hat-based Linux in the future. So really what we're looking at is the ability for you to be able to resell those subscriptions as well. Online memory management is also a key area that we've done a lot of work in, and really the biggest benefit from a service provider is offering some competitive billing plans or opportunities for billing. So being able to have a pay-as-you-grow model, allowing customers to scale their virtual machine vertically by workload, being able to change the billing plan without having to reboot the virtual machine, and also having memory guarantees in a Virtuozzo container. So it does require a management console support. Should be supported in things like OACI. So Virtuozzo 7 supports vCPU hot plug, RAM online increasing and decreasing without needing to reboot using hot plug and ballooning technology, and also provides memory guarantees for containers and virtual machines. And really the key thing here is that you have the ability to not just offer fixed plans, but be able to have basically an upsell opportunity on memory for your machines, because they don't have to actually be rebooted. Another emerging area that we see a lot of opportunity in is disk encryption. So this is a new feature we're going to be releasing shortly, and there's definitely some additional benefits to the service provider, and we see it in two key areas. Either as a kind of a marketing benefit that you can offer from the point of view of a value-added service, or being able to actually sell a premium tier of services that are disk encryption. And from the customer benefit, certainly there's been a lot of focus recently on data privacy and particularly with sensitive data and the confidentiality of that. So making sure that their confidential data is secure when stored at a cloud provider, and the ability to, in some cases, there's regulatory reasons that prevent them from being able to store data unless it is encrypted. So there is integration with an external key management system built in. However, that encryption is transparent for the containers, meaning that it doesn't prevent any things like instance migration, snapshots, backups, all those things. So you still get that functionality, and that's the nice thing about having it built into the solution, is that the software works the way it needs to work in order to manage the environment. But it means that if that disk were to be taken out of the environment, whether it at the end of its life or being pulled out or someone accessing it, if they don't have that key, that data is encrypted and it's not accessible. So it does require a management console to support this, but it does support some key management protocols, and you will need to implement both hardware and software key management systems in order to make it work. But it is something that we support today. And if you're interested in looking at this further, or it's an area that is applicable to your business, we'd be happy to have a discussion and talk a little more about this feature with you. Also, integrated backup and restore. So we've certainly recognized that we need to have very, very robust systems for backing up and restoring data. And really, having that integrated right into our software solution means that it's first of all built in with no additional license, so it doesn't actually, there's no additional cost to you in order to implement that system. It's very space efficient because it is snapshot based, so as opposed to being full backup, it takes snapshots. And there's a lot of flexibility with giving you the ability to delete any backup from any backup chain. It also means that with the ability to restore them in case of unavailability, because we've gone to a standardized Kukow2 format, so it could be converted using a utility if necessary. In order to build a service offering that's based on this, obviously you need to integrate it into your management console, but again, we think it's a great opportunity to upsell. So we'll take another look at questions here. Give me a second just to move up. That's not what I wanted to do.
Sorry, Stephen, I started to talk and realized I was on mute.
No problem.
Do you have a question up there? Or?
Yeah, so why don't I'm going to hand it back over to Dan for a sec while I just read over the questions and then
Perfect.
on so I can answer.
Okay, that sounds good. So real quick, just how to get started with Virtuozzo 7. So our web portal is chock full of resources where you can access the different various platforms that Steve had mentioned throughout the presentation. And they're listed right here. To keep it simple, you can go to virtuozzo.com and follow any of the product links, and you'll see the different download areas, and rather than worrying about copying down these URLs. We also, everyone on the call who is a current client should be engaged with a salesperson or a sales engineer, and if not, I encourage anybody on the call, for that matter, if you're looking to connect up with somebody and walk through this in a more one-on-one setting, just reach out to me directly. My email address is down at the bottom of this slide, and we'll get you in touch with the right and appropriate folks to help you have a positive and good experience with the platform. Stephen, if you could just hit the next slide there. So just real quick to go over pricing, so we've developed some slightly different pricing for Virtuozzo 7. It is still based on a per socket pricing, and we have various stages for the numbers of VPNs you have. We do have an unlimited that's there and available as well. On the storage, it's priced out on a per gigabyte, but we block it off in terabyte increments, and it starts off as little as 2 cents a gig and grows up to where there's some discounts at volume as well. So lease line pricing licenses on monthly payment with additional subscription fees, and then we also have a perpetual license model for folks that are interested in that model as well. And that has an annual license renewed for the software update service as well. For those of you who are interested in doing or managing servers for your clients on Amazon, where you're doing kind of managed workloads for them, Virtuozzo is a great way to leverage your buying power on the Amazon market. We are available within the marketplace today, and we will price that on 2 different ways. You can do the per hourly pricing if you prefer, or you can also do bring your own license pricing for the marketplace as well. So a couple of options there. And, as I said earlier, we encourage you to reach out to your sales team, and we'll work towards getting you the optimal model for the types of businesses that you're going into. I think with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Stephen to address some of the questions that were posed, and then we should be pretty close to wrapping up here.
Great, thanks, Dan. Yeah, just going over. There's a couple of questions around the support for the SDK. So yes, so the SDK, with the very few exceptions, there's nothing really that's deprecated from Virtuozzo 6 to Virtuozzo 7. So if you've integrated in and you want to be able to, some of the new features may not be supported, without additional activity. So, if in order to take advantage of some of those new features, obviously some development work will have to happen in whatever platform it is to support it. But yes, Virtuozzo 6 functionality in a Virtuozzo 7 environment should still be supported. So hopefully that answers the question around that. Yeah, ReadyKernel is a K-patch-based service. So we have a Virtuozzo proprietary implementation of it, but it is K-patch-based. So it is definitely an industry standard. It's not something that not proprietarily built our own. Again, when it makes sense, that we're definitely looking at going with solutions that are out there and then enhancing and improving upon them. And then there was, certainly, there was a question about importing virtual machines from other other platforms. I think in this case they were asking about VMware. So we have some best practices and some tools around being able to migrate and import, and certainly VMware is one of those things that we do. But if you have an environment that is outside of Virtuozzo, we'd be more than happy to sit down with you and talk about what kind of support we can provide you to be able to move in. Obviously there's different strategies around that, depending on the format that those are in and how what the storage format is and things like that. There may be easier or more difficult ways to import them, and we'd be more than happy to talk that through with you and provide you whatever support we can. But obviously there's going to have to be some because the format of the virtual machines will be different. It's not just a matter of drag and drop, but we do have some tools to help with that process. So excellent. So appreciate everyone's time today. Looks like we're there.
Yeah, looks like it wrapped everything up there.
Yep, which is good. I will. Unless there's anything else from you, Dan, I think we're in good shape. And like I said, we'll send out a recording as well as we'll make sure everyone gets their questions answered. So I'll leave the questions open for a couple of minutes. If you want to type anything else in, we can see if we can answer it. If not, thanks very much for joining.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. We appreciate it. And thanks for everybody for taking time out of your busy day for this webinar. I noticed a couple of you said you're going to be testing coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So encourage you to reach out to us. We're happy to help. That's what we do for a living, and we're excited to share this new technology with you all. Thanks again for everybody's time, and we'll be reaching out here shortly with the recording and then also to see if there's any other questions that we can help with. Thank you.